Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat. Over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
So many books you'll go mad!
Hey, this is Gary Butterfield.
This is Kole Ross.
And we're with Watch Out for Fireballs, and we're doing it live at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
That's right, we are going to be talking about a retro game at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, but we need your help.
So please go to www.Duckfeed.tv/Kickstarter. It's going to send you to the Kickstarter page, throw us a couple bucks, you're going to get the live show, you're going to get a bunch of other neat stuff. And we're not ready to announce it yet. We promise you're going to like the game that we're going to do, and we'd really appreciate it.
So once again, that is Duckfeed.tv/Kickstarter, and you'll enjoy the thing.
You'll enjoy the thing.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
A great pool of knowledge, the fruits of superior wisdom, and an unquenchable desire for the truth. Some would say Seath had an unsound fixation, but his work is a beautiful, invaluable resource. All progress demands sacrifice.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And I'm Dennis Furia.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat, an undead favorite.
And this week we are talking about the Duke's Archives and the Crystal Caves. And as you heard, we have Dennis Furia on the line here. Dennis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Me and Kole do a little podcast called The Level together. Got started under a different name way back in college and has kind of refused to die, I guess we'll say.
It's a true undead. Like, no matter what wounds happen to that podcast, they instantly heal.
Yes.
Oh, yes. But yeah, so you can find that on the Duckfeed.tv network. And through talking about Dark Souls on that podcast, Kole, and giving me the game, Kole got me into Dark Souls, and hence me coming over to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah. It was the most selfish Christmas gift ever because I showed up at your house, like, you know, Ben was there and it's like, hey guys, Merry Christmas. I gave each of you a copy of the game.
Yeah, I remember it being really well timed because I was just on the verge. You had been talking about it so much that I was like, and I knew Christmas break was coming up, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna have extra time. Maybe I should just go out and get it. And then, like, you sensed the weakness in my resolve, and you showed up with the game because before that I was dead set against playing this game.
Yeah, because you really didn't like Demon Souls.
Yeah, I hardcore rage quit Demon Souls.
Like,
I think
you hardcore rage quit Demon Souls after like playing 80% of it. I think something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, where are what's the equivalent to Blighttown, and how far into the game is that?
The Valley of Defilement.
Yes.
And it's any percentage in, but oh boy.
Well, yeah. But following the natural progression I'd gotten there, and I remember the descent into that being particularly rife with camera issues and with, you know, poison, and I can't remember if that has curse as well, but just all kinds of shit. Yeah, and literally all kinds of shit. And thinking, I don't have to put up with this anymore. And after getting, you know, poisoned and killed by something I couldn't see for the 30th time, I probably closer to throwing my controller then than at any point playing any other video game. But anyway, I kind of took a shame, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me approach to Dark Souls until Kole broke me down and got me to play it again.
I want to ask, that's interesting because I didn't know about your history with the spiritual predecessor to this.
Oh, yeah.
How far are you in Dark Souls now? Have you got through the game? Are you as far, you know, are you just getting through Dukes? Or?
Yeah, no, I've beaten it, and I'm 1.5 times through it. So my first character I did, my general heuristic for games is pick the heavy class, pick the range class, and then kind of the generalist class. So I just went with the biggest and hardest hitting weapons I could find my first time through, which was really, really interesting. And you guys have talked about how really you can play Dark Souls any way you want if you're willing to build up that particular skill set. So I played through the first time with the Great Club and then the Demon's Great Axe. the entire game, which was awesome. And then my second time through now, I am doing a kind of the opposite, lightest build I can, and doing all daggers and magic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the exact same weapon combo I use for my my strength character. My no shield guy, and that's my favorite. I think I've decided that's the most fun I've had with the game is no shield, but a really big, huge fuck you weapon.
Yeah,
is
you
super
guys were
fun.
talking about dual wielding. I think it was last episode, and I just got this idea of someone running around with the giant great axe, demon's great axe in either hand.
Yeah.
And
We were talking about doing the two Smos hammers, like New Game
Yes.
Plus. Yeah, that would be unbelievable. John Henry was a steel driving man.
I have not done any like theme characters. I haven't really done much invading, but I think that's where I'd start.
Is it possible? So with 99 strength, can you achieve that?
You can do it with I think you need 50 strength for to one hand Smos hammer.
Okay, so
And you don't need additional strength to put a weapon in your extra hand.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 50 strength will do it. And you can definitely make that happen. You just have to get through New Game Plus up through there, which like always ends up losing interest for me. But it would be I would like to see it.
Not even because the demons drop multiple great axes.
Yeah, if you want to do the great axe rather than like Smos hammer, I think is the biggest. Like they would clip into each other.
Yeah,
like, it would be ridiculous. Like you would look unreasonable at that point.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like it would be astonishing if they had animated them in such a way that you could swing them without them clipping, but that is not the case.
I'd be surprised. Everything clips.
Yeah. If you wear Logan's hat, you're just going to have to deal with everything clipping through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of
Yes.
clipping.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that raises kind of like one of these things. Like a lot of the feedback that I've been getting recently on the contact page has been people who either gave Dark Souls a shot but didn't like it, or were like outright opposed, like, "Oh, man, I hate that thing." But somehow they listened, and like our enthusiasm, like all of the people who come on here, the enthusiasm, like collectively overcame that block.
Oh yeah.
So-
Well, here's my theory on why I didn't like Demon's Souls. I had GameFly at the time, and I had gotten it out through GameFly, so I was under time pressure to finish it. And if there is any set of games that punishes rushing more, I can't think of it. You know, this game hardcore just will punish you for trying to rush through it. And I think that's what got me. If I had just bought it and played it on my own time, I might have been introducing Kole to Dark Souls instead of the other way around.
Right.
We run into that all the time with Watch Out for Fireballs. Like for this podcast, we have a relatively small area to get through every 2 weeks. But with with Watch Out for Fireballs, we're always running into games that we're kind of having a little bit of a compromise experience, just because because we only have 2 weeks to play it. I definitely understand that. Yeah. So I'd be interested to see what would happen if you revisited Demon's Souls. Like, we'll talk about it at length when we get to it. But it's like I don't think it is as good. But there's a lot of uniqueness to it, including the final boss of the Valley of Defilement is like an excellent end boss. Like it's so
Really?
good. Yeah, it's really like the third area of that is really, really like I really like that encounter. And so there's some goodness to be had. But the Valley of Defilement's fucking bullshit. Did you get to part 2 of it? Because part 2 is worse, my friend.
Oh God, no! I never got past the part where you were descending, so I don't know if that gives you any sort of clue.
Yeah, you get to the swamp floor, and it's excruciating. So.
Well, good. I'm glad I bailed before it got really bad. I've got it downloaded on my PS3 because it was free on PS Plus a couple weeks back. So it's there, waiting for me to play it. We'll see what happens.
Cool. Yeah. What did we do last time on this particular show, Cole?
So last time we solved the remaining mysteries of Darkroot and vanquished the 4 kings in the abyss below the flooded ruins of New Londo. And now we are setting our sights on the strange building that overlooks Anor Londo.
Mm-hmm. And anybody else, every time you've been looking at this, like Duke's Archives, started hearing the Stevie Wonder song? Like the dun, 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 dun.
Okay, can you explain that to me?
There's a Stevie Wonder song called The Duke.
Oh, okay. There we go.
And I kept like the whole time I was playing this, I kept
over my head.
No, I just kept thinking of this. You've heard the song, I bet. Like it's a pretty popular song, but I just kept hearing like making up words about Seath the Scaleless to that in my head. They're not clever or anything, but just like, Scaleless all over. Like, I don't know. But every time I read the Duke's Archives, I think of that Stevie Wonder song.
Yeah. I think of the John Goodman movie, The Duke of Earl.
Are you thinking of King Ralph?
King Ralph, there we go. Yeah, that had the song in it, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Okay.
There's some real like alchemy there that I knew exactly by the Duke of Earl. I was like, oh, you mean King Ralph? The John Goodman's movie from like 1994. That was the worst flop of his career.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So okay.
There is a song about Anne Orlando done in the style of Desperado.
Yeah. Justin McElroy did.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I imagine you could, fit something together.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a market for that sort of thing.
Let's talk about the Duke.
Yeah.
It's a good song, man. Yeah. So every episode we try to come up with a thesis for the area, and Dennis actually came up with this one. And he said the thesis, and and we all kind of came to it just in different phrasings because I think it's pretty common. And there's nothing is sacred, because this is the area that breaks some rules.
Right.
This is you described that moment of losing all hope. You said when you fought the Four Kings, I came here before I fought the Four Kings, and just repeatedly again and again it does these giant fuck yous that just break the rules of the game. And are very clearly like, oh, no, we're not going to give you any refuge or anything to count on. And that's where I kind of hit bottom, as it were.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you describe that as losing all hope because, it's actually like losing all attachment.
Yeah.
But
going hollow.
Going hollow. Yes.
But luckily you didn't go hollow through this area.
Yeah.
Lore-wise, this is the dukedom of Seath the Scaleless, who we've talked about a lot on the show.
Right.
He is a mover and shaker in the world. He's an eternal dragon. He betrayed his kind during the fight with Gwyn, as is revealed in the intro. And because of him helping out against the dragons, he was given this archive overlooking Anne Orlando as a place to conduct his research into the scales' immortality. He was not immortal because he doesn't have the scales, and obviously that was a big bug in his craw.
Right.
And he wants to remedy that.
Yeah. And the whole nothing is sacred thing actually ties into the lore as well because he is a mad scientist. Like he is somebody who is twisting and perverting the rules of nature in order to make up for the fact that he's going to die eventually, right?
Yeah, which was a real classic like horror and science fiction trope, right? Like mortality forces people to do terrible things.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing the evidence of that throughout the entire game up to this point. And we're going to see a whole lot more of it here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of atrocity style stuff here. And it's kind of interesting because we don't know exactly when this happened because there's definitely, he didn't start out bug nuts crazy.
No.
Right? Like the method that he has found to go crazy or to become immortal is a item called the primordial crystal. And it's and researching has caused him to go insane.
Right. He like this primordial crystal, at least according to Big Hat Logan, is actually a relic from the ancient times. Like this was brought forward with him, and either it granted him that surrogate like lich immortality from the beginning, or he figured out how to harness that power out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of this research, there's kind of this area is being corrupted. So there's these kind of crystal outgrowth from this central, primordial crystal. And something I just thought of while reading this paragraph is that kind of parallels the way Elysial is corrupted.
Yeah. And
this theme of corruption and kind of spreading.
Well, it's pretty much everything. Like all of these final areas, and this is an awesome kind of like symmetry to all these places. Like you are venturing into the heart of something that is really, really wrong and is affecting the area around it. So, to Elysial, to a huge extent, that is definitely true. But think about, Lost Izalith, which was a city that was lost to the chaos, right? Think about New Londo, which is, Elysial Mark 1, right?
Right.
Think about the Tomb of the Giants, which just like no, it's so hopeless that no light can escape. It's like it's like these different forces. And in Lost Izalith, it's chaos. In New Londo, it's the dark. And here it's this kind of like sorcery, like order run amok, right? Energy that is just coalescing into these crystals that's like corrupting everything. So
really, the whole thing is just an allegory for The Dark Crystal by Jim Henson.
Yeah. These are all the dark crystals that come out. That whole bit about the idea, like, so two things real quick. Like, one is that I don't know if I think of like Tomb of the Giants that way, but that kind of works anyway, because like one of that area, and we'll talk about it, feels a little bit different than all these areas. Nito feels a little bit different than these people. And like, 'cause since he is just kind of like a god of death, like he's neutral, he's a faction leader.
Right.
He's not in any way villainous, unlike the rest of these things we're taking on. And that kind of plays with, the whole idea of him maybe originally going to be in the Painted World.
Right.
Maybe that area was kind of compromised thematically early on. The other thing too, though, when you talk about this being like order out of control, like I really like that, because a crystal, is essentially like a math equation. Like it is geometry, kind of taking over. So contrasting this with like the formless black goo that comes out of the abyss is a really neat idea.
Yeah.
And neither are more desirable.
Points in the game, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is the highest point in the game. Yeah, whereas all the other ones are real low.
Is Tomb of the Giants lower than Lost Izalith?
No, Tomb of the Giants overlooks Lost Izalith.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tomb of the Giants overlooks Lost Izalith, but then when you go further down, it overlooks the Great Hollow. Ash Lake. Yeah.
You see the side of you see the side of the Great Hollow from out there. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting. The other thing I like, just kind of as we're touching on the lore of this area, is kind of insanity as the ultimate pragmatism.
Right.
Like, you're told that Seath has been driven insane, but really all he's doing is trying to preserve his life, and he's willing to do some crazy things for that. But if you were facing death, especially in a race or a breed, or I don't know what to call the dragons, but that where immortality is the norm, it just seems to me like you would go to great lengths to regain or protect that.
Yeah, he doesn't seem that much more sane than like the Four Kings, or than I don't know, Capra. Like, I mean, they're all like, they're all seem pretty bug nuts at this point, other than like Quelaag, or like there's a couple, the motivations behind these things are not necessarily, known. I mean, there are some things that are just self-defense. Like Nito is a big one. Like Nito doesn't become hostile until you go fight him, and up until that point he's neutral. So that's going to be really interesting, and I think that really is the outlier here.
Right.
But yeah, he doesn't seem that nuts. I mean, the text tells us he's more insane than anything, but he also unleashed this kind of corrupting power, and we don't know when and if this would stop.
Right.
In the grand scheme of time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There are two things to note here. One is that Seath is the father of all sorcery. So if you've been running around casting spells, either soul arrows or later on you get like crystal spells, that is all Seath's doing, as indicated by the fact that the sorcerers of Vinheim are part of the Dragon College. So he is the god of sorcery, right? Additionally, he is a deity from the King's Field games as well, which indicates that there's this kind of crossover between all of it.
Isn't but I mean, the other thing too, because they specifically call out the sorceries of Elysiel as not being part of the sorceries of the West. Right? So, like, I guess, like, most of what we're getting is from the Dragon School.
Right.
But not all of it.
Well, that's interesting. Like, because you guys have talked about how there's kind of, like, different, almost elemental kinds of sorcery. Like, there's the sound sorcerers, and there's the light sorcerers, and all that stuff. I almost always thought of Seath as, like, the crystal sorcerer.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way that I always contextualize it was that like all sorcery sprung from him, and bringing that from the dragons, and then the rest of those are different applications of that same kind of principle of harnessing that soul energy. Right.
Is the crystal sorceries are the crystal sorceries the most powerful?
Yeah, at least in terms of damage. And it should be noted that you only get the crystal sorceries after Logan has done his thing in like digging them up and researching them.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, I would buy that it's possible that all the sorceries came from him. Like, I mean, like, I don't think there's anything that directly says everything came from him, but it seems like reasonable conjecture to me.
Yep.
Yeah. So on the way here, this is kind of architecturally weird when you first go in here. This like 2 long hallways with boars in them.
Yeah.
Like what a weird, like kind of boring video gamey section that makes no real like. Every time you went into the library, like you wouldn't want to walk 2 blocks through like a boar hallway with no other defining features. Like I never liked this part.
Well, except for really, really, really creepy whispering in the background.
I never heard.
Like I don't. Yeah. If you just stop and listen, there's like some sort of female voice whispering. No idea what relation it has to anything, but yeah, it's definitely creepy.
I'll have to look that up, and if I can find a sound sample of it, I'll cut it in. I was not able to find a sound sample. It doesn't mean it's not there, but I could not find one on the internet. That's interesting, though. I don't think I've ever noticed that.
The other weird thing. So as I was thinking about theses, I really like that you guys put those theses, thesaurus, theses. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As I was thinking about that, as I was playing through this area, the other thing that was really apparent in a theme in this area for me was like it's you versus the devs now. Like there's a lot of these kind of nothing is sacred moments. I felt were very clearly like the devs saying to me through the game, like, yeah, we know what you want and we're not going to give it to you. Right. And so this hallway was very, very much kind of that in my mind, where the devs are like, well, we let you fight this thing in the open before, now we're just going to take away that openness, and we're going to make you fight 2 of them.
You could say that about like most of the areas after Anor Londo, though, right? Like,
yeah.
Where like they say, okay, you spent the first 2/3 of this game learning our rules. Now let us have fun with them.
Yeah.
Like you're definitely right, Dennis, but I feel that it applies on other places as well.
Mm-hmm. The hallways, though, are definitely, like you said, feel very gamey.
Yeah, they also changed the board. So the one that you fight outside the parish, you can backstab it. You can stick it up the pooper. But these ones, they're armored all the way around, which means they're learning from you. They're watching your movements.
Yeah. We don't want to see what happened. We don't want to have what happened to us after that guy.
This guy is not afraid to put a halberd up a boar's pooper.
just imagining them watching, and then like everybody, like it's just Seath and 2 boars on either side of them, and then you wheel back and do the backstab, and they all like wince.
Not cool, man.
Carl, no.
This is actually an interesting implication, because I've been thinking about the Firekeeper soul that you find, and this is jumping way ahead, but in the parish, and there's a channeler there, presumably trying to get it. And then there's the boar there. So let's say Seath has some control over the boars. He had the channeler there, some boars protecting it, trying to get this Firekeeper soul. You storm in, take out the boar, take out the channeler, take the Firekeeper soul. And he's like, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again, and upgrades the boars.
Yeah, double boars.
Double boars.
Which are there any other like creature animals in the game that you can backstab? I thought that was pretty much reserved for fairly humanoid.
We run into another one later on in this area.
Right.
You can backstab the mimosas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Huh.
One thing that I love about the boar hallway, you're right, it is kind of dumb. It is really video gamey. Yeah, their pathing is broken, and you just have to lure them to the end, and they walk away sheepishly while you just take pot shots at them. However, you fight the one, you think, okay, cool, and then you round that corner right at the very end. You see that you're like at the archive now, but like they put that one right around the corner in that short hallway, and they do a lot of damage to you if you're not expecting them. So it's kind of like, ha, fuck you. Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is luckily my first time through the game. I was so like rictus grip on my shield, that I made it. But if I had gone through the first time as like a light build, this might be really tricky. So you get in, you get past this guy, and you go up the elevator to the actual archives, and you're in the kind of this whole first area, and then when you get back to the archive area. It's a lot of enemies with kind of a lot of cover, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like I found like I played this section a lot differently than I played other sections. Like getting to an area of cover where I couldn't be attacked by ranged attacks, or maybe seen by guys, and kind of choosing when to take out these crystal hollows. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't always happen in this game. It's kind of an interesting bit. And these guys are real sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Especially if you go here first.
Oh yeah.
Like after Anor Londo, you're like, oh my god, excuse me, oh my god, finally, enemies that are normal sized again.
Nope.
And then they can pretty much one hit you.
Well, it would make sense for you to go here first because it's probably the first orange fog gate you've seen.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can get there right from Anne Orlando. When you leave that first area, there's no reason for you not to go left. You just think it's another part of Anne Orlando. You see the orange fog gate. In order to see the one in the Demon Ruins, you have to get pretty deep in there. In order to see the one in the Catacombs, you have to get real deep in there, or in Tomb of the Giants. So this is probably the first one you're going to go to if that's how you're thinking of it.
Right. So these crystal enemies, they have lower HP, but they have really, really high physical resist. Is there anything, because I've tried a bunch, is there anything that is like an unequivocal win against them, or do you just have to suffer with doing like 110 damage on the two hands Vi attack?
Pyromancy is real good against them. That's why I just went through with my level 1 guy to like refresh my memory. Yeah. Because he's like the only guy who is in a state of the game where he can warp here but hasn't beat the game. He's not in New Game Plus. Right. And Pyromancy seems really effective. And then they have a really high physical resist, but if you can do like backstab and parries and stuff.
Like their moves are very similar to just your regular hollow soldiers. And in fact, they might just be hollow soldiers that have been here long enough to grow these crystal growths, which is really, really scary.
Yeah, that's my thought. That's totally what I thought. I mean, it could be an experiment, but also just the way that because they're corpses, they're not moving around if there's nobody here. The idea of this moss gathering on them because they're so still, is really cool to me. Yeah,
And I almost thought of them as being like on their way to being golems. Like that's the end point for these things.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. But just like seeing them, their design, I think they're one of the more unsettling enemies in the game. Have you seen the Tree Man?
The Tree Man.
It's a guy, I forget what country he's in, but he has like this.
Yeah,
he's
got
the
worst X-Man.
Well, what's that?
The worst X-Man.
Yeah, the worst X-Man.
Yeah, the saddest X-Man. I've seen that guy.
Yeah, he's got like too much keratin in his skin, and so it causes like all of these fingernail-like calluses to grow out, and his hands are like these gigantic, scaly. It looks like tree bark. It goes up his arm. He's in incredible pain all the time. It's one of the most that you could just wake up one day and have that be you. This is your life now. That's what this feels like to me.
Yeah.
It just looks really painful.
We're lucky dudes.
Yeah.
Let's all take a moment and acknowledge our straight white male, age 25 to 35, non-tree man privilege. Yeah. Dodged a blow with that one, guys. Yeah.
Oh man, they can never take my non-tree manness away from me.
Oh, that could just happen one day.
It could, that's what I said. Never sleep. Never.
Yeah, because that'll protect you. It's not instilled by Freddy Krueger. Like it's not.
Oh man, but
the other thing is you're fighting more of these guys at once. I felt like I was not in control of pulling these enemies. Like for most places in the game, even when you are facing multiple enemies, I always felt like I could kind of control when and how I pulled them and kind of how many I pulled. Whereas this one, I just wound up in like, group combat again and again, which is kind of went with the nothing is sacred thing for me. Like I had no ability left to isolate down to one person.
And
or if I did, it was after a lot of experimentation.
Like you're really exposed, and that's why I ended up spending so much time undercover.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you end up having I'm going to duck behind this library shelf. These guys are slow. Like they never sprint. They can kind of dive attack you, but if they're not close to you, you can kind of get them to trickle in. But when you first get in there, you're totally exposed. Like the guy to your left sees you immediately. The kind of like fuck you ambush guy. There's a guy in front of you. There's an archer in front of you, and like those fucking archers, man. Like so, crystal bows do a lot of damage, and their shots track.
Yeah, which is just the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, just another one of these rules that's being broken, in this area. So you just really have to make use of the terrain, and it makes sense because this is a weird library where, so let's say you're a studied man, you're like a pasty white scaleless nerd. How many astrolabes do you think you need? 1, 2. So, I don't know. Just like give me 30 or 40 and just space them out throughout my floor. It's like the statues. Yeah.
The person who did the requisitioning for the Duke's Archives also requisitioned the statues.
Our tax dollars are going to this. I'm not going to pay more taxes just so those fat cats in Anne Orlando can buy another crystal toilet plunger.
Forget about the dark. We're in the red.
Yeah, I know. I wish we were in the black. The deficit is the creeping dark.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. Have you guys seen that mod?
Yes.
What?
The Dark Souls mod that changes the "you died" to "thanks, Obama."
No, I saw. Oh my God! Where's my bell? There it is. Okay, no, that's amazing. I've seen GIFs, but I thought that those were just I thought that those were just a joke, as
No.
Dark Souls GIFs are. Somebody actually made that.
Yeah, it's a mod. That changes every time you die to "thanks, Obama." I
Slightly better than the Holocaust never happened.
I love the Holocaust Never Happened one. I only like it because someone described it as a weird glitch. Like the YouTube says, like how did this weird glitch get past the developers? It's so funny to me. Like, uh-oh. That combination of characters showed up.
There's a YouTube video that's made by Bleep. He's a guy from Something Awful's FYAD forum. That it's the secret hidden castle in Super Mario World. It's just like you go in and it says like Hitler was right or something like that. And as you run along, it's like swastika 69 something like that. And all of the speech boxes that you hit just say these awful things. And it's like. Nobody can figure out why Shigeru Miyamoto felt the need to express these views, but yeah. Oh man. Mm-hmm. I'll put a link to that.
So, but I was saying thanks, Obama, a lot in this area.
Yeah, it's real hard. So, like, I love this area the most out of any area in the game from a lore perspective and an aesthetic perspective. But I don't like the gameplay that much. In that way, it's like the inverse of Sen's Fortress for me, where the aesthetically and the lore, it's nothing that special. It's unremarkable, but the gameplay is really, really, really good. So somebody needs to like Reese's that shit and get a little bit of Dukes in my Sens.
Yeah. Duke's Fortress.
Sen's Archive.
Like, yeah, it's like I think that the gameplay here, the worst thing I can say about it is like it doesn't, other than just mass, like it doesn't introduce that much new to it, other than just like numbers.
Right.
And
So,
enemies
like,
that freaking teleport away before you can kill them.
Yeah, like having to deal with multiple channelers in a row, but who have that kind of power, and you're getting peppered all the time with ranged attacks.
Yeah.
During here, so it's like it really kind of is like the area that's about cover.
Yeah.
In all ways.
Is this the biggest, most wide open space in the game? I mean, excepting something like Anne Orlando, where you're on these walkways and you're kind of seeing everywhere. This is a gigantic enclosed space.
It's the biggest
indoor
open space where you're fighting a lot.
Right.
Yeah, like other than I guess like the painting room in Anne Orlando, but then the area you're there in is very limited. But that's kind of like similar to that, like the ground floor. It's like a very large open space, but those enemies seem to have like less aggro range and are spawned further away from you. Like if you kind of stick to the outskirts, they won't see you. To make that happen here, like if you go in with the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring or the Ring of Fog, like this area becomes a lot easier.
Right. Because
enemies, aggro range is much shorter. You're more likely to take on one guy at a time. But if you don't do that kind of like simple trick that they don't want you to know about, professors hate it. If you don't do that, then it's you're pulling lots of dudes, and that seems like that's all there is really to it in a big open area where you're going to have to fight lots of guys at once.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a lot more people here positioned for ambush. We mentioned one, but like just every time you turn a corner, there's someone standing behind it waiting for you.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some channelers, because we like talking about channelers.
Yeah, this is the culmination. This is the highest channelers per area in the game. Channelers per square
these
foot.
are the last channelers. We don't see channelers after this.
Mm-hmm.
So no more channelers. If you like channeler chat, tune into our new podcast, Channeler Chat.
I want to make that T-shirt so bad. I've got some doodles on here.
As opposed to Chandler Chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Friends is coming back.
I hope not.
It is.
Is it?
Look upon my works, ye mighty, and weep.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, so a couple of kind of like stray notes here. I want to get your guys' opinion. Do they have 6 eyes, or do they just have 6-eyed helmets because of Seath?
I like to think of them having 6 eyes just because it's extra creepy.
Yeah. I'll go with that. More insect-like.
Yeah.
I like to think that this is just like, a symbolic thing. Like, these are humans in Seath's charge who like just have this thing, just kind of like our master doesn't have eyes, so we have more to compensate. And also to say we are the eyes of this blind, this blind yet all-seeing eldritch abomination. Right.
They're a little big to be humans, though.
Yeah,
right?
I was just about to say that. Like, I never thought of these guys as strictly human. Like, they're definitely sorcerers of some kind, but I never thought of them as actually human because they're like twice as tall as you are.
I mean, I kind of look at them in the same area as the butchers. A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of like, maybe they're humans who were corrupted by some
The
force.
butcher is like the redneck cousins of the channelers.
Yeah. No. If you end up taking a lot of shop classes in high school and the army won't take you, you become a butcher. Otherwise, you go to the Duke's Archives and you get your master's degree in woman kidnapping.
So I guess if being around Seath and Biggins them, it could also give them extra eyes. But I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe. There's no way to see it.
Yeah.
And the text is purposely, maybe not purposely, but
it's really vague. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think either way, like the way you're reading it is dead on. Like the kind of symbolism or meaning behind it
totally.
is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the eyes of Seath, and that's supported by seeing them all these other places. It also refers to them as snatchers.
Yeah.
So this is cementing. Really? Yeah, this is where we get, because up until this point, you would have to make a pretty big leap to think that maybe we had to make big leaps to figure out why they were where they were at. And we're basing that information, a lot of that on this, which is like, we know they kidnap maidens because this is the armor that tells you they kidnap maidens.
Right.
And they are known as snatchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. No affiliation with Hideo Kojima.
Yeah. It's a little slangy of a name for Dark Souls. Like, the snatches that get you, they will. Like, it sounds a little hip.
Yeah. Well, later on, Logan says we need to, make for a getaway or something like that.
Yeah. This is stage. Time and space is weird, and
yes.
It's all timey-wimey and Lordran. So
yeah, it's okay. So let's try to link this with BioShock Infinite.
Yeah. Yipes. Yeah. The most frustrating thing about fighting them here is definitely the teleport.
Yeah.
Like, anytime if I see them buff, I know that's when I go up and stab them a bunch until they stop breathing, because like that will generally work, like while they're doing that awesome dance. But when they teleport around, that's really frustrating. And we talked about it before. Like, there's not tons of, like, there's one really good magic resist shield, and then a whole world of two, because Havel's too. But then there's like a whole world of like pretty shitty magic resist shields. So those magic missiles are going to be serious. And like I feel like once you get up close to these guys, if they don't teleport, like, you're pretty much okay. Like, they're not too bad melee wise. Mm-hmm. But when they teleport away just to pepper you with more missiles, that can be really fucking infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also get caught off guard because they respawn here as well.
Yeah. Which means if you want a trident, like, this is your area, but there's no, real good bonfire for running up to them. You can do it from the second bonfire we run in, or I guess this area is rich in bonfires, man.
Yeah.
The third bonfire you run into, but you still have to go through quite a bit in order to get to those guys.
Is it the trident that gives you the dance? I saw the full dance for the first time watching a YouTube video earlier today, and it's freaking awesome.
It's the R2, and it actually does buff people around you.
How badass is that? I like that. I like that touch a lot.
There's a YouTube you got to watch. I think if you search like Dark Souls Young Turks, that Rod Stewart song, there's a really fun video of like a Chandler party. I like a whole lot. A whole bunch of people dressed up as Chandlers.
Yeah,
Chandler dance.
Laid down prism stones.
Made like a techno dance floor.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you get past the one channeler here, through this room full of astrolabes. You may notice a treasure chest on top of a bookshelf. It's a little just don't try it. It's like that. God, is it fucking obnoxious.
Yeah.
But for now, we're just going to go up through there, and I love this part leading up to it. Because it was before I got pissed off at this area, and because I was like, okay, this is getting increasingly crystallized. Like, I'm going to explore a library that is slowly being corrupted,
right?
And I thought that was really cool. Like, I was like, that's awesome. This is just going to. I knew the crystal caves were attached. Like, I'd read the Duke's Archives / the Crystal Caves. I didn't think they'd be a separate area. I thought that you'd be exploring hallways of a library that had been encrusted over with this stuff. That's what I was expecting. You run into a crystal knight on the way up here who's bereft of significance? Like, do we know anything about this dude?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
I've seen him referred to as the Crystal General. He's kind of like a NPC. He has a different moveset than the regular guys, I think. At the very least, he will parry you and riposte and everything like that. So at the very least, he is more adept than kind of the general hollow moves that you find.
I don't remember it being a hard fight. Like it is a different moveset, but I don't remember him being particularly difficult or notable. Like what are they trying to do with him in this area?
I have no idea. He hits hard. Like that's all it is. Is like he's not hard to avoid, and he's not particularly hardy. He just hits hard, like all crystal things.
Right.
Do you? No, that wouldn't make any. I was going to ask if you hear from Griggs. Or is it Griggs of it? Yeah, Griggs. He goes off to search after Big Hat Logan.
Yeah,
he doesn't make it.
He hollows and sends.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. That's almost a cool idea. Like if this was him, like getting corrupted by this stuff and just covered in the crystals, but we know what happens to Griggs. And so you get up here, and I was surprised at this point because I saw the fog wall. Somebody had put "need ring" in front of it, and I know what they mean now, but I didn't know then. And this is like one of the very few times I feel like Dark Souls like fundamentally just like breaks the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there are times where it bends the rules. Right, so those tracking arrows that bends the rules. Invisible, like the platforms we're getting into next time later. I don't think those break the rules. I'm kind of into those as a thing.
Yeah.
This just seems like a mandatory death feels so counter to the spirit of Dark Souls to me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's nothing to signal that it's mandatory. You can do damage to Seath. I was like, okay, this is going to be, because the boss fights in the Souls games tend to be about something. When I realized I couldn't just run up to him, I thought, okay, this is a ranged boss fight. I'm going to be avoiding attacks from him. I'm going to be able to do ranged things, and maybe he'll like put down his tail and have to run up it to do melee attacks or something like that. Like, I was like trying to figure it out. You can fight him for a little bit, and then he just does his like really high damaging Omni Curse Breath thing. It does a lot of damage, so you're likely to die before you get cursed, but you can definitely get cursed, which is that's what that need ring thing was supposed to be. So you're going to lose all your souls on the way up here, unless you put on a ring of sacrifice, because you're not going to get back here before dying.
No.
And you can wake up in the jail cell like fucking cursed, and it's going to be a long time before you can warp somewhere to fix that.
Right.
No.
Yes.
It's so annoying. That's so
What the hell,
frustrating.
man?
Well, so are you saying that you need the curse bite ring, which it's really good that we went to New Londo before this, or are you saying that you need the rare ring of sacrifice, because that would actually
the rare ring of sacrifice is what I would use.
Yeah,
because you'd keep your souls too.
Okay.
And in humanity.
Yeah.
It could have been referring to either one. I mean, it was a Dark Souls message, so it was oblique. But the like now, I try to save. If I'm in a playthrough where I'm concerned with souls, like I'm not soul level 1, I try to keep a rare ring of sacrifice just specifically for this fight.
Right.
Like I remember texting you about this, Kole. Like when I first did it, and I was really irritated about it. And like narratively, they wanted to do like a prison break.
Yep.
And they want to show the power of this character.
Who looked at Dark Souls and said, you know what this needs? A prison break.
It's real video gamey, right?
Yeah.
It's like a real traditional narrative-y. But like we've been watching him catch people all game, right? This is what he does.
Yeah.
So it's like I get that part. Have me walk into a hallway and have like gates crash down. Like that still would have been video gamey, but it wouldn't have had a mechanical impact. And it wouldn't have gone against the weird, the lore of this game where it's like, you can't, like, this doesn't happen. You respawn at the last bonfire you were at.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's been established over and over again. If they had just made it a trap, at the very least, like, it wouldn't break as many rules.
So I have a theory about this.
Okay.
In hardcore, when this happened, I did like a double take, and I'm like, this is not not okay. I feel violated. But so this is kind of moving us into that whole next section. But we talked about the whole Boar and Channeler and Firekeeper soul in the parish earlier. In the cell that Big Hat Logan is in this next area, I believe there's a Firekeeper soul, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wonder if Seath wasn't after a Firekeeper soul, or / acquired a Firekeeper soul and used that, or had that killing a Firekeeper as some way to break this whole bonfire continuity because he knew you were coming for him and like was getting ready for it.
So I could see him taking that and actually like installing a bonfire in there, knowing that like as he captures undeads, like they could just commit suicide to get away. Right.
Yeah.
But if he, somehow forces them to, rest at that bonfire or link to that bonfire, like he keeps them in a loop. So like that one way is like out. So the whole there is, how you didn't just go back to where you, started, right? But, that can be hand waved away where the wizard did it.
Yeah, maybe like something, you get to an area, there's a door in front of you, and when you rest at the bonfire, it opens. Mm-hmm. So like at that point, when you kill Seath, that is the last bonfire you're at. And then while you were knocked out, he changes things or something like that, right. Or like opens a different way. Something like, I don't know. All of the ways you can do this, like if they decided they wanted to have this plot video gamey thing happen, it's always going to feel weird. It's always going to break some rules. They went with the most arbitrary, like a wizard did it way to do it. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I could see it from the perspective of like we're trying to build him up into this like badass who's really messing with the way things are,
right?
Or with the natural order of things, and that's what I took away from it.
And I'm always a big fan of like subverting the fabric of the game in order to make you feel like uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, just kind of like, how do we stress you out by taking these things that you took for granted and then changing it, because this is a real big, like the rules are off kind of moment, which could either be, really a bad thing or, something that adds to the feel. I don't
How cool would that be as a random status effect? That when you die, whatever, you get infected with this like Seath curse or whatever it is, and every time you die, you wake up at like a random bonfire.
Oh no.
When you could warp, it would be right. It would be trivial. Well, the other thing too is like what would that would do would be annoying. Yeah. Like it's a cool idea, but it would be even before you could warp. You'd be like, okay, well I have to walk through here. Like and annoyance is usually a bad punishment.
I'm at the bottom of Blighttown again.
Yeah, that would be rough. Like just the Blighttown draw, where like every time you teleport, you just teleport there first. Like the Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a way that this could have been fixed. I understand if he's a badass, but like Dark Souls is so about rules.
Yeah.
That subverting a rule like that, like a good example of how this could have worked, is they did, and we're going to talk about it. And the more I think about it, the more I'm looking forward to this episode. Is like in the Catacombs and Tomb of the Giants, like Catacombs, the intentional way. No one ever feels like dealing with this, but I feel like one way they intended for this was to be a pretty challenging area you can do early on, where the whole point is you have to get to these key enemies before everyone else dies. So that's taking something, you've been going one by one through things slowly and methodically. You can't do that there. So they're taking away like a play style.
Right.
Same thing with Tomb of the Giants, even though we're going to get around this too by going and getting the Sunlight Maggot. But the idea being that like, okay, you have to hold a lantern. You can't use a shield for this area. So it changes your play style. It doesn't change like the fundamental rules of the game.
I mean, okay. So again, each of these 4 areas, each with a different elemental affiliation, each with a different thematic link, and each of them breaking that rule in one way or another. New Londo, like the first 2/3 of the level, you can't hurt enemies, unless you have this different thing. So there are these different compromises that you have to make in these areas.
Right, and then Demon's Ruins they didn't finish.
Yep.
So Demon's Ruins, they're like, oh shit, we can't do anything for this.
Right.
So let's rush on through. But yeah, I mean, I would buy that. Like that, they're kind of like the second half of the game is about taking these things away from you. But this specific thing they're taking away from you, like, doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Very well. If I suspend like my Dark Souls part of my brain, I can get pretty into it.
Yeah.
Because I like the sequence that results from it.
Yeah, this sequence is one of my favorite parts of the game, actually.
Yeah, me too.
The situation that leads up to it aside, like this is like the scariest that this game with like skeletons and monstrosities gets.
Yeah,
this well-lit room full of cogs.
Yeah, like I love this area. I went down when I played it right before we recorded. I just wanted to go look at those cogs. Down at the bottom. It's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I wanted to see if there was any kind of suggestion as to what they were, and I couldn't figure anything out.
Yeah,
and there's no reason for you to really like look at them even because everything that is of interest is either up the ladder or in the cell to the right. So you're given no real incentive to explore that room.
I think it was just an artist really wanted to have that there.
Yeah. It showed up in some early sketch, and that's just always the way it's been.
Yeah.
Seath is a steampunk LARPer, and he just throws some gears on it. Like,
Okay, so in their artist pool, the people doing the concept art, they had a giantess fetishist, and a steampunk LARPer.
yeah,
There we go.
and that's how we got Tomb of the Giants. So what happened? You wake up. You do this like there's like the lounging snake man,
Yeah.
which I'm glad
Oh my God.
that guy's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's his cousin from Sun's Fortress. Like there's just the one guy who's just going to be asleep on the job no matter what.
Yeah.
You steal his key, and then this like cutscene, which in a game with very few cutscenes, they're all significant.
Yep.
Like a micro snake man, right? Like the snake man that turns on the Victrola, like he's a shorter snake man. Did you guys think that?
I didn't notice that.
No, I didn't.
Maybe watch the cutscene again after we get done. Once we get off mic, I don't know. He looked to me like a toady, and I was like really surprised I didn't run into him. It's weird that you don't. Like it's weird that he's not anywhere, but like he looks really. It might just be a trick of the perspective. So I mean, everybody listening, tell me what you think if you thought this as well. But I thought he looked shorter. Runs up, turns on this like ancient, like snakeskin covered steampunk Victrola, and has this awful noise, and then the snake men run. And God, do I love them running past you! Like,
Yeah.
oh shit!
Get away! Aren't you a
thought
little short to
water
be a
was
snake
rising
man?
the first time.
You thought
Like,
Oh,
what?
that would have made sense.
Water was rising,
Oh yeah.
or crystals, or something like that. That was the first thought. My first thought.
They
Do you hear?
they
Oh,
unleashed
go
the
ahead.
Kraken.
Yeah.
Can you actually hear the thing playing? I can't remember because I died almost immediately after
Yeah,
it
you
turns
can.
on.
It's
Okay.
it's fucking horrifying, is what it is.
It's been going on in the background of this whole part of this conversation for people listening. So it's
Oh God.
it's really annoying, and I'll turn it off now.
Yeah.
One way to cheese this, if you're ever feeling unadventurous, is just go immediately rust or immediately kill yourself. Mm-hmm. You'll wake up back at the bonfire, and the alarm is off.
Yeah.
And the Picasas, Mimosas, Grix are respawned back in their cage.
So I need to do an in episode errata. It's Pisakas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I could forgive you for thinking that it was Google's photo management software, but it's Pisakas. Yeah, I'm looking at the thing now, and yeah, he does appear to be a little short. His proportions are off.
Yeah, he's got kind of dwarfish proportions. I don't mean that as like a slur. I mean literally like, a longer torso.
Yeah,
But
shorter
still like
arms.
shorter arms and shorter legs.
Al wasn't meant for regular combat, so we put him down on the lich collar.
Yeah,
Gives him a sense of purpose.
he's the lever pulling boy. And then that makes you think like maybe he's hiding somewhere, and you could just find him the same way you can find the giant that opened up Sen's Fortress. Like that would be awesome if
You,
there's still
you
that
kill
secret.
everything else that he sends at you, and he does the little and runs away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
If you want to, you can turn the alarm back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it do
I've
anything
done
once
that.
you've killed them all?
I don't think so. I don't know.
It just grates on you.
Yeah, but it's a neat sound. Like aesthetic, it's really, really unsettling. Like
Yeah,
a
well
lot of this
designed.
area. Yeah, but like I like the idea that there are these Pisakas, which are octopus-headed, snake-bodied. They've got this spike and vaguely vaginal. When they lift up their tentacles, really, really weird, creepy creatures that are kind of inherently non-aggressive. Like they only attack you if you get close enough to provoke them, right?
Or when the alarm goes off.
Yeah, or when
Like
the alarm goes off.
the alarm
But
sends them off.
but I like the idea that they are, just kind of like, twisted beyond recognition and just kind of like sitting there. And the way that they get them to attack is just to piss them the fuck off. It's kind of like, here's this thing, like maybe that's a frequency that's just like only they can hear, and it grates on them, and just kind of like going after and just going on a rampage, right?
Pisaka whistle.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I thought of, because we're going to run into the two Pisakas who are non-aggressive,
Right.
I wonder if like the ones that attack you are the ones that have gone insane
Oh yeah.
from being kind of trapped in this body or warped, and the ones that just weep are the ones that are still aware of the fact that they were once human.
They're fresher.
Yeah, which is crazy, terrifying, and sad. These things are not as tough as I thought they would be based on the reaction.
No,
Right.
no, not
but
at all. They get a cutscene and they're really kind of easy.
yeah, not too bad. There are a lot of them,
Yeah.
but they're not too bad.
And it's interesting you mentioned that weeping. I was really weirded out the first time I went through. Somehow I missed freeing Big Hat Logan from Sens, so he never showed up down here in my first playthrough. And I heard that weeping, and I always assumed it was someone like back in the cell that all these things were defending.
Yeah.
And then I finished clearing them out and couldn't find this person. And then there was that Firekeeper soul in the cell.
Yeah.
And like
So maybe it was like ghost weeping or something like that.
yeah,
but-
right.
Yeah.
And that's the only conclusion I could make is that
Yeah.
either that or like I had accidentally like taken something out with my gigantic axe or I guess club at that point,
Right.
unintentionally.
Yeah. The two that weep, their big sister and little sister is what they're referred to as. And they also drop miracles from the Princess Guard.
Yeah, they're members of the Princess Guard.
Yeah.
Like they're like her handmaidens or something like that. Like it
Yeah.
says something in the miracle descriptions.
Right.
They were ones, so this is what happens when Seath kidnaps a maiden. This is what would have happened to Dusk.
Do you see what happens
right?
later? Yeah.
Yeah, this is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps. Like you put him in a gold, you turn him into a mimosa. So these super creeps. You find Big Hat Logan here. He's been captured again because this is what he does,
Yep.
and he wants you to do a jailbreak
Yeah.
with him.
So like a lot of his dialogue up until he finally does lose his mind indicates that he's not very well balanced. Like when he's when he's trapped in the cell in Sens or the hanging cage, he says like my mind is melting from like the lack of something to do.
Yeah.
And then here he says, oh, it's so something. These books, so close but so far away. Locked behind these bars. I like Big Hat Logan's character so much because of those like hints, right?
It is, and I say this all the time. It is overtly Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
the idea of, and this whole area is with the Pasakas, which are pretty much Grix, D&D Grix. I don't want Levi to attack me, so I need to mention that. They're pretty much D&D Grix. But though with those creatures and with this whole storyline of like the pursuit of knowledge being a corrupting force as opposed to an enlightening one, and Big Hat Logan is essentially a Lovecraftian protagonist,
Right.
Right, like he's Herbert West, and he is pursuing knowledge at the risk of his own sanity, at the risk of his own breaking his own brain,
Right.
A question for you. Is there any equivalent to this in Demon Souls? Either to the Prasakas or Priscillas or whatever it is, or to this whole like bonfire prison?
No, there's nothing that like breaks the rules like that in Demon Souls that I recall. There are not Pasakas. There is like a prison area where there are non-aggressive like hollows, essentially, and prison guards that actually kind of bear a little bit of a resemblance to these things, just in the face of the fact they have tentacle faces.
Right.
In the Tower of Latria.
Right.
Oh, I think I got there. Yep.
Yeah, which is probably the spiritual successor. That's the sorcery area.
Right.
For
I mean, you
and
want to talk about a Cthulhu reference?
Yeah. that area is also overtly Lovecraftian. Like this is the spiritual successor to that area. At least this first part.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I'm trying to think here. So
You get a key from the record player behind the DJ.
Yeah.
And we talked to Big Hat Logan. He wants you to get him out. You're not going to get the key for a little bit.
Right.
So you go back up, and now you're making your jailbreak, and you get back into the area that's I guess behind where you fought Seath.
It's
right.
Oh, okay. So where you got on the elevator to head up. Like so picture the big gigantic room that's kind of bisected by this wall.
Oh yeah, you go past it.
Yeah, this is just the other half of the stacks, right?
Yeah, I got really, really disoriented.
It's very
back to this.
disorienting. And that's one of my biggest problems, especially when you start rotating the staircases.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Like I can do it in 45 seconds now,
Yeah.
but the first time, the fact that everything looked the same, and the fact that you're constantly getting harried by channelers you can't. There's that one channeler you can't get to.
Yeah.
So he's just dropping magic missiles at you, and you can't like sit down and be methodical the way that I would want to in this area. So it's really easy, but it's only easy once you know how to do it, which is true of everything. But it's really confusing on your first time through.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I do one note as you come out of the prison and back into the archive proper. You get a view of the kind of garden or forest area that you go into
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah.
later. And I remember it just really impressed me because I saw that I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and I just assumed that it was all background area. And then as with everything in Dark Souls, you wind up being able to go there, which was
Right.
just a nice little connecting moment for me.
I was watching this awesome this awesome video from Vati Vidya, the guy who does the Prepare to Cry stuff. He has this like little series of videos, is kind of like 10 things you didn't know about Dark Souls, and some of the tidbits we drop, at least I drop, are from that. However, he had this one where like he's saying, if you can get to an area and you can see it from a different area, like if you drop your bloodstain there, you can actually like see it. And to demonstrate that, he stood in the Tomb of the Giants and that part that overlooks Lost Izalith. He put on the binoculars and looked over, and you could see from the Tomb of the Giants his bloodstain in Lost Izalith.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, and I had a little bit of a moment of like that, because like from one area, like from one side of Anne Orlando, you can see like when I was dying on the Archer Buttress. Like, yeah, you can actually see the soul on the Archer Buttress from like where you spawn, essentially.
So speaking real quick, earlier in the notes, it mentioned that you could see the Duke's archives from the Undead Burg. Is there a particular place you have to stand to be able to see it, or is it just up there?
It's up there. It just depends on the angle. It like peeks out over the wall in the skybox. I can't recall the exact place where you have to stand.
I feel like that might have been one of those things where I saw it and I just didn't know that was something later in the game yet, and I didn't think to look for it, so I didn't nothing clicked in my head.
Because you're used to that kind of visual information being embellishments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you see that, and it's interesting because like everything else around it is this white fluffy cloud, so you are real high up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like when you're looking at that whole area too, you get that huge spire of like dragon tower thing, or the crystal tower, and it looks like a dragon.
Yep.
Did either of you guys think that? Like he's constructing a gigantic crystal dragon? Like where's that boss fight? Like that's looked at it again today, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that looks like
No,
something
I
else.
didn't notice that. Is there any point from the Duke's archives where you can look back over the rest of the game?
You can't really see over the wall even into Anne Orlando. Like you barely can from this area, and this is the highest up you can get and see outside.
Right.
Which feels like it should just be this spectacular view.
Yeah, the highest view would be from Seath's chamber at the top, where you have the hopeless fight, but you can't really, even when you
There's
go
no
back up
windows.
there are no windows. Yeah.
Yeah, because Seath is a goon. Because he's a pale nerd. Lives in a room with no windows. Spends all the time. Yeah.
That's where it just got ridiculous for me, is like, as you're running out of this prison tower and the entire wall is bookshelves.
I love it.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, at least you'll have something to do while you're in jail.
Oh, God forbid he ever gets silverfish.
Yeah.
They're going to be gigantic and have tentacles.
Yeah. Well, silverfish used to be human maidens. I don't know if you knew that. But so you're kind of going around doing this staircase thing. We don't need to describe it totally in detail.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of treasure chests around here, this is where you're going to find, the same way every area has an upgrade path. This is obviously the sorcerer one.
Yeah.
And you get tons of blue titanite and twinkling titanite in order to upgrade special weapons and also upgrade intelligence based, like magic or enchanted weapons. But eventually, kind of counterintuitively, you rotate a staircase and drop onto the bottom of it to run up to a channeler to get into the kind of next area, like a very welcome bonfire that you can teleport away from. So if you got cursed when you first fought Seath and didn't have an item to fix it, or if you just want to go level up some and not deal with this next part, you can finally warp away, because you can't warp away from that jail bonfire.
Right.
And you get into the next area where you through kind of a secret passage that goes into the back.
You go behind the shelves, and there's some stuff back there. Like that's where you can find a stash of prism stones, which will be useful later, and then also mimics.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
The channeler set.
Yep.
So in case you want to dress up like a channeler, you also get the crystal ember, I think, here. So if you want to make crystal weapons, which
Why?
Yeah, I've never. Have either of you guys ever done anything with crystal weapons?
Not really. Like when I got them, so Domhnall sells them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I picked one up and I played around with it. I was like, oh, that's neat, but it's like impractical.
Yeah, because you have to upgrade it to restore its durability.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't repair it, and that just seems like I'm just can't sacrifice something I put that much upgrading into.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Do they have any place in like PvP?
That's a good question, because like that would be the place for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like you don't have to, a lot of people who are doing PvP, you look at them and they have like, infinite humanity, and they have like 73 Lloyd's talismans, and because they stop leveling up at a certain point, so they have a lot of souls. They can buy 99 longswords and buy the Titanite in order to turn them all into crystal weapons if they wanted to.
So here's what's crazy. So I'm looking at this Zweihander. A plus 15 Zwei has 325 physical damage. But a plus 5 crystal Zwei has 351 physical damage with the same scaling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I don't know. And you have to and it's just regular Titanite. Except when you get to when you get to the top, which is you'd have to use an actual Titanite slab, which why?
Yeah, which don't.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's kind of the crystal weapons go the same way as like raw upgrades.
Yeah. I think they're better than raw. I think raw is widely considered to be the dumbest.
Wait, yeah. What is that? Just like a red herring?
It's a noob trap, is what I've heard referred to as.
Yeah. I mean, which is what I did with the very first club that I'd gotten, because thankfully it was before the Great Club. But it's like, oh yeah, I want that. It looks like it's a little bit better.
Yeah, because you don't understand stat scaling, which is this thing they didn't explain to you at all. Exactly. Yeah.
It's worth noting that the Crystal Ember, its in-game description actually says that it was created by Seath the Scaleless. Whereas a bunch of the other embers, like it's not attributed to anybody. They're just kind of like seen as being these these elemental manifestations.
I like that, because it kind of plays into this whole, crystal thing as, warping natural stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and he could have. I mean, I like the idea of the hollows. They're just like having moss grow on them, but he also could have. He made the ember that can upgrade their equipment. Mm-hmm. So what it is. So that's possible.
That's right. They don't have it growing on them at all. They just got their equipment has it. They're really totally just fine.
If you put on the crystal set, you look like the Crystal General.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. When you get his set, there's no, which you get here in a minute, there's no lore significance to it. It just says crystal weapons are stronger but can't be repaired.
Right.
Like, that doesn't say anything about it.
Which, I mean, I like, again, from like a game perspective, that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, that fits, but it just doesn't work.
In video games, like, and there's been a couple other games where they have like the glass sword or what have you, like this, just the weapon that does tons of damage but breaks when you use it. I never use them.
Right.
Like I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going to touch this. And that's just how it ends up working.
Except for the Crystal Sword in Final Fantasy IV, which was sweet.
Well, yeah, but it didn't break in one use.
That's true.
It's just a good sword.
Yeah.
It almost, at that point, it almost feels like an item, and it's almost the too good to use syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would work in a roguelike, where you have to use big items like that constantly. But
sure.
Yeah, here it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
You run into Logan here, and this is where you're going to get a big lore dump on Seath.
Yeah. So,
and he kind of explains what just happened to you with the sucker punch.
Yeah. So Seath is a lich, essentially, like in the D&D sense, a true undead who his entire essence is held outside of his body, or the secret to his power is held outside of his body. The primordial crystal is kind of like his phylactery, and this thing, makes it so that he's Wolverine. Each and every one of his wounds closes up immediately because he is fueled by this crystal.
Yep. And Logan also professes his respect, for Seath at this point. Like, he is a fan of Seath. Like, he can't begrudge Seath this, and that plays in later. If you want to complete Logan's quest line, which you do if you're a sorcerer, you need to buy all of his spells, even ones you already have copies of, and that is a lot of souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really expensive to complete the sorcerer.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it's really pricey.
The enemies in this area aren't that good for farming souls, if I remember right.
No, you want to warp away.
Yeah.
You want to go do the forest exploit for a half hour or 45 minutes.
The way that I did it, because I wanted to farm up humanity too, the Pasakas at the bottom of the jail cell tower, it's a really, really good farming spot.
I can see that, especially if you have like an area of effect pyromancy.
Yeah. If you go down there with
Chaos.
Firestorm, it'll just it's nothing. And if you put on Covetous Gold, Serpent Ring, get some humanity, and put on the Symbol of Avarice, like you're going to be raking in humanity hand over fist.
Yeah, do you have the Symbol of Avarice at that point?
On my main guy I do, but it's one of those things. I've never gotten to Baldur's Side, sir, but I have that fucking thing.
Yeah,
random side note. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the gold Serpent Ring does not stack with the Symbol of Avarice.
Oh.
Yep.
Alrighty then.
It seems, I'm surprised it doesn't, because most things like that do stack, but in this case it does not.
Yeah, the Boar's Head Mask, or whatever that's called, is, I guess, a super rare drop. I got all 3 of them.
What?
I think you're guaranteed one from the second one. Like, one of the groups right in front of Duke's Archives will give you one. If you didn't get one in the first place. No, I'm thinking of the gargoyle helmet.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
I just wound up with a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, you decorate your mantle.
Yeah, start my like a dragon place for like what Ornstein has, only with boars.
Yeah, just boars.
I love that room.
Stay away boars. So what else about Logan here, other than you had to buy all his stuff? Like, he's coming up in a bit. Like, here you just buy his stuff, and he's just chilling. Nothing wants to kill him. He's just reading.
Yeah, he's just reading. Again, one of my favorite story notes in the game, and why I like him. As you go through his inventory, like, there are certain marks where he just starts gibbering randomly, and he says
"Oh, there you are. It's been a while. Or were you just here? This fascinating place defeats my sense of time."
It's kind of like the Crestfallen Merchant in that you can see his descent.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I dig that. Like, he's going down the same path Seath did.
Yep.
And sorcery is that way madness lies.
Mm-hmm.
So you get through this like area in the back. You go through this kind of secret. You go through a secret door. You pull a secret lever to open these stairs that open up into this back
the
here.
Candle back. Sorry.
Is it a Young Frankenstein reference?
Yes.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Huh.
You thought I was going to say put that coffee down, but no, I went another way.
You end up in this backyard, which is just full of crystal golems. Like, this is where they live when he's not, sending them out to capture maidens.
And there's nothing good in this area. Like, I explored it very thoroughly, hoping to be rewarded, and you don't get anything.
There's blue chunks.
Yeah.
You do it if you want source. You want upgrade material for an enchanted or magic weapon.
I just picture them frolicking and playing.
Yeah, they're kind of cute. They're big dopey idiots.
Actually, in terms of the fights in Dark Souls, I actually really enjoyed these 2-on-1 Crystal Golem fights. Like, I thought that was really interesting. Their moveset is pretty easy to learn, but there's just a little bit of randomness in always having to fight 2 at once that I really, really liked. So I probably fought all of them more than I needed to, instead of just running by, just because I enjoyed the process of fighting them.
Yeah. I like fighting them too. Like, they've got a really, they telegraph their moves really fairly.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like fighting them when you have a lot of room to move around.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, this is another big area. Exactly. To fight them. You also, here's a thought, because you run into another gold golem here.
Yeah.
Containing Sigmund, Sigmayr's daughter. Do regular golems turn into the gold ones when they absorb a maiden?
I don't know.
Or are they different golds? No, you had to have been following Sigmayr's quest line.
Yeah.
Which is one of the pricklier ones in the game. It's the prickliest one in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I picture so the way that I imagine it, and again, all of this is baseless because of me. It's like the difference between a linking book and a prison book.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's one that's specially designed, to be deployed, to bring her back. Why she is there and not, maybe she was on the way to being dropped off in the basement. Who knows? But one of my favorite things about these gold ones, and again, something from Vatividya's 10 Facts, is you can see Sigmund in the golem.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I watched that video. That's really cool. Yeah. She just pretty much tells you that she's there to She's looking for her father.
Yeah.
You would not be blamed by thinking that it's Sigmire,
Yeah.
getting captured, because they look exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about Sigmire when we complete this quest line. Next episode, I guess, is when we'll talk about him. I mean, he has a little... Well, I guess we are going to be hard up for things to talk about in Ash Lake.
Yeah. Ash Lake seems like the culmination.
Which you guys have been railing on Ash Lake, and so I'm just going to take the opportunity to say it right now. I actually loved Ash Lake.
I love Ash Lake too.
Yeah, aesthetically, there's nothing to do there. But
yeah.
Aesthetically, I just was blown away by it.
High five, buddy.
Yeah, I did a high five motion. Did you do a high five motion?
Kind of.
Yeah, I am not blown away by Ash Lake. I like Ash Lake. I wish there was something to do there. It's neat from a lore perspective. Like it's like one of those things where it's like it's a lot of pomp. You're like a lot of like it's a lot of bombast, but the lore perspective is just this is a primordial area. Mm-hmm. Like it's not even lore. It's just atmosphere.
Right.
Like I feel like what you guys are picking up on is an atmosphere perspective.
It's
like there's nothing
really
to
heavily.
it. Yeah. It's like gated way too heavily, and there's nothing to do there. Like I would have, and it's fine because it's an Easter egg. Like I like it a lot, but I just, I wanted more Dark Souls.
You guys, popped my bubble last episode on just finding out that no one is in that Dragon Covenant.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought that was really cool. I almost joined it when I first found it because I was like, "Oh, so badass! Maybe I'll do some PvP." But
it's a wonderful idea. However, like you're not going to get as much action as if you were just invading people. The fact that it's voluntary is really limits the number of fights that you're going to get in.
Is it better to farm if you need to farm for dragon scales? I have to imagine it's better to go to the Valley of the Drakes or whatever.
Yeah. It's no fun to do it either way. That is the better way to do it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm completely derailing us.
So you freed Sigmund, and you are kind of like running in the direction of Seath, and it's pretty clear where you need to go because as things get more crystallized and fucked up, you see this huge chasm, like gigantic. Mm-hmm. Like the scale of this always throws me off guard when I get there. Like it's such a compact area, like in terms of like the areas that you can get to, but yeah, just the entire cavern itself. It's this gigantic crater, like just abscess in the world.
You're walking on areas that were not meant to be walked on,
right?
Like Seath flies here. Like he does not need to walk. He doesn't even have feet.
Right.
So the some of the pathing is really non-obvious because it's not meant to be pathing.
Well, also because it's fucking invisible.
Oh, right. Which, before you can even get to the invisible paths, though, which there's something interesting about that too. But like they'll say in a minute, but you have to start fighting the crystal golems on the platforms, and that sucks. Like unless you're like one-shotting them, they're fairly easy. I've gotten very good at running around them. Like I don't fight any crystal golems down here anymore.
Right.
But that took like a lot of trial and error and dying.
Mm-hmm. You just have to bait them into their like diving jump. And you're fine.
Yeah. The first invisible path you run into, that originally, so there's a marker on it from the developers that say like secret path that signals to you that there are invisible paths. That wasn't there until a later patch.
Right.
Really? I kind of wish they didn't do that.
Me too.
Like I don't like that being there. Like I like having to learn this more because there's a lot of clues, right? Like other players are probably going to be leaving markers.
Yep.
Because they're nice guys. And you can hear it. Yep. Like you can hear little crystal snowflakes, which I love crystal snowflakes. I love that. Like whatever that, that just, we're getting like 3 inches today and everyone's,
everybody is like
into insanity.
Calcified into insanity, and also their lungs are bleeding and they're drowning on dry land because they're inhaling these small shards.
Got a bad case of blue lung.
Yeah.
See, but like in retrospect, yes, it's clear to tie that sound back to the crystal snowflakes hitting the walkway. I don't think I ever would have put that together though. When you're running down this first path, before you run into the first one you have to take, there's a really obvious one. And I could see missing it too. Like I could see anybody missing it. Like you'd have to spend some time fucking around looking for it. But there's like a little pathway under an arch. And because of the lighting or what have you, the snowflakes bouncing off of it are much more evident. Okay.
The entire area you can see is being bounced off of. And maybe like the rate of precipitation there is higher. But that one looks really evident. And if you go through it, you get a treasure.
I think that's what did, because it also, that path, it's like, it's not just over, I could be misremembering, so call me out on it if I am. But the path is not just like off of a sheer cliff face. It's like it looks like you could walk down a little further, and then you're just, oh hey, I'm in midair.
Yeah.
So it almost baits you into finding the path.
Yeah.
Yep. The one I was just talking about definitely does.
Yep.
Yeah. You also you're running into crystal butterflies here, which again reusing a thing is always kind of a little bit frustrating, but like they're so the run up to the crystal butterfly where you just see it flapping its wings in the distance is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here it's happening constantly. Like,
is it the same model? It struck me as like a smaller, like a mini.
Yeah, they're
version.
smaller.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they're mostly non-aggressive. Like you can fight them.
Yeah.
With my archer, I decided to fight one. Just to see what it would be like. And I fought that first one where you don't have to be on an invisible platform.
Yeah.
To fight that. But yeah, it seems like if I was invading, I wonder if people have done invading where you just try to beat people into making these things go aggro. Like in an area that's not meant for it.
Couldn't you just like invade and then just like piss one of them off and then black crystal out?
You can't attack enemies, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
As an invader, so you couldn't hurt it.
And they aggro if you just get too close to them. You don't actually have to like attack them.
Yeah. Yep. So you just have to get someone to back into one on accident. Yeah. So invisible pathways.
Yeah.
The long ones.
So I love them in theory. I like The Last Crusade. But they stress me out so much.
Yeah, they're real generous, right? They're really wide paths.
They're real generous, but I've fallen off of them because
I have too.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying that like they stress me out, but it seems like I shouldn't be stressed out. I just am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The optional one is not. The optional one.
Oh
yeah,
shit.
the optional one
Sucks.
curves. So
yeah, and that's if you want to fully upgrade a magical weapon, that you're going through that, and that's rough.
You're either going through that or you are killing about 50 crystal butterflies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I got to a point where I had, for whatever reason, I had a ton of souls the first time I tried that path and fell off, and so my stain was just hanging there in midair. But every time I tried to get back to my stain, I would work myself into some weird predicament where I'd completely lost track of where the overall path was going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you find yourself chasing snowflakes, so it's kind of like, oh, that one hit. Okay, I'm safe there. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm safe there.
Even that doesn't work. Like you say it curves. I think it in my mind's eye, it's more jagged because there were a couple of places where I chased a snowflake that I felt like was safe and managed to fall off a ledge anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does jag. There are kind of ways around this, like so dealing with these. The prism stones are a big one. Leaving markers or having someone else having led a marker, or left a marker. This is a big argument for playing online. I think.
Yeah.
It's rare that I get down here that someone hasn't done this for me.
Yeah.
And then arrows are really good. Mm-hmm. Because it's quick. Like you can just pull out your bow, shoot at the ground. The arrow will stay there as long as you need it to, and then you just walk to the next arrow.
That's a good.
Yeah. So if I'll usually space them out about 10 feet from each other, like where I'm at, they're about 10 feet in front of me, wherever it hits, and just go there.
Yeah. And
can usually make that work. I very rarely will rely on the snowflakes because like when I get out, that's what makes me nervous. Is like when I get out there and try to do that, even though they're straight shots. Like now I can do it without doing anything. The fastest path to them, which goes through the little cave with the lizards in it.
Yep.
Which because if you go you go down one path, you go left. If you can get past that golem and drop down to the cave with the lizards in it, it's one more straight path to Seath.
Right.
Oh, you're not talking about being able to do the path to the blue slab with.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I was like, dude, this guy.
No. I mean, sure,
Dark
people have done
Souls
it.
Jedi.
Yeah.
I am not a Dark Souls Jedi. I just don't need a blue slab that much. Like I did my playthrough with a blue slab.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Really, really stressful. Even still, even when you know it. Yeah. So anytime I see one of those markers that's kind of out of midair, if I'm not being chased by a golem, I always upvote it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that's a nice thing to do.
There are only a couple. Like if I am doing co-op with somebody, like a stranger, just summoning them for a boss fight or whatever, I always send them a thank you message, and I always upvote those markers.
Yeah. And if you don't see any of them, make them yourself.
Right.
And that's a nice thing you can do for people who are on their first time through this area.
Yeah.
So like you eventually get past there and you end up in like Clam Town. Just Clam Town, Klamaheim, California. Like
Klamaheim.
Like it is stupid. Thank you. These things are hard.
Yeah.
They hit really hard.
Yeah.
They have that
it's
little kick.
really easy to pull multiple ones at once, which is you're done if that happens.
Yep. And it gets really frustrating if you're dying against Seath and you don't want to stop and deal with these things. Like you get to the point where you can run through the crystal caves. This point is really annoying up until you get that. Well, I mean, I guess once you have the fog wall, you can just shoot through. But if you're just going through on the first time, they'll follow you in because there's no fog wall
Right.
on the first time through.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So these, I love the design on these things. It's really, again, unsettling is the key word of the day. How they have those 4 crab legs underneath them, and they have that fan shell.
Yeah.
And they're full of human skulls.
Yep. Yep. Nature's pearls.
It's like the Dark Souls version of the stork. It's forming people inside of it.
So wait a minute. Like, people have the babies, but they don't have skulls, and this horrifying monstrosity comes by.
This is how baby skulls are born. Like, we'll get to that in the Tomb of the Giants.
This is how babies. Yeah. No, but so this is real interesting lore stuff. I have it in the notes here. My conjecture.
Yeah.
So they drop Purging Stones and Twinkling Titanite. Twinkling Titanite, we can see, like, okay, maybe it's just that they got this Titanite in and their various mucous membranes, like an actual clam, turns them into pearlescent, twinkling, kind of things.
Does the description say anything about why Twinkling Titanite twinkles?
To the wiki.
To make the world a more magical and pretty cool place, of course.
Yeah, I guess I never stopped to ask that.
This weapon reinforced in Titanite is imbued with a particularly powerful energy. Let me see here. Let's see here. After this Titanite was peeled from its slab, it is said that it received a special power, but its specific nature is not clear.
Oh, so that plausible that it went through one of these clams.
Yeah. They also drop Purging Stones, which, if you look at the icon, it's like a little skull that is kind of suspended in crystal, like that right there. So it's implied that this is where they came from. Kareem just found these things and then just started harvesting them because curse is real useful. So here's the thing, like, Seath and his affinity for curse and everything. If you look at Ash Lake, what do you encounter down there besides the Hydra, which is also kind of a dragon? You encounter Basilisk, which, spread the curse breath or whatever, and you encounter more of these man-eater shells, which, have this power to, it's all affiliated with curse, right? So we never learn exactly where curse comes from. It could be that Seath, harnessed it and created it, or that he just brought this with him to, from the ancient world, from the primordial world, and used that to conduct his research into crystals and things like that. And, curse, because it turns people into these statues which have these crystal, little bits coming off of them, that can be seen as kind of like a perversion of this soul crystallization kind of thing. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Okay. I think so, yeah. Especially, I hadn't thought about the kind of ties it has to this primordial area before.
Right.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Seath has one of his tentacles in the primordial soup or what have you. It kind of undermines our why there's a channeler in the depths theory, like of him researching curse at that point, because that's where their basilisks are. But it makes a sense. Like,
yeah, I mean, it could just be that basilisk got out.
Yeah.
So I like that. It's like, yeah.
Carl, get that basilisk back here.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any reason that Chandler would be particularly interested in the gaping dragon. Maybe that would explain it away.
I mean, the fact that it's overlooking the gaping dragon right there, as opposed to down where the basilisks are, might lean it further in that direction to just kind of like what was it about this particular eternal dragon that made him turn into this, whereas Seath is in this entirely other area. So
sure,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy it.
Yep. That's okay, but even more lore stuff. So I apologize.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good. So this is the weird boss fight for a couple of reasons. Like, one, because again, in like a real video gamey plotty thing, like you're not just encountering a boss to fight him. Like, you are going to destroy his immortality stone, and he catches you doing it. Which is just a little bit more story and build up than a lot of the bosses, like specific fights have. With bosses, like the Four Kings just hang out until you fight them.
Yeah.
Like this is all played in this little micro story of you getting captured and all that jazz.
What's up with the original intro? Because you said the fog wall isn't there initially, right? And then you get a fog wall afterwards?
If you die on him, like you walk halfway there, Seath flies in, and the boss fight starts, and a fog wall goes up.
Is there anywhere else that works like that? Because then you have to walk through the fog wall every other time.
Yeah. Fog walls are weird, and we've lore conjectured them a bunch, and pretty much figure out that they're plot walls. They just back plot until we need it. I don't think that there's really, a solution to that.
Yeah, I can't think of any other place in the game that has this thing where it's like it's not gated and then it is gated later on.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Because there are other areas where it's not gated, like the Stray Demon, right? There's no fog wall for him.
No.
There's other places where there's no fog wall, but there's not one where one appears partway through like this.
Again, nothing is sacred.
Yeah. Yep. So he has his little crystal there, and if you need to destroy that to do damage to him, he knows you're doing it. He catches you, and you're going to fight him.
Yeah.
And you get to the Seath the Scale boss fight proper.
Yes. Always make him destroy his own crystal. Never not do that.
It gives you a chance to do some damage. Like, it stuns him.
Okay.
And you can make him start breathing on it, and then as soon as he does his wind-up, you can run up and get some hits as soon as he breaks it.
Okay.
If you want to get his tail, that's what you're doing. And getting his tail is a big pain in the dick. Like, it is so hard. I had such a hard time with this.
Well, he's got those two other tentacles that basically make him wider than any other boss in the game.
Getting around him is a real chore.
Well, and that tentacle like flail, his tantrum attack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Criminy, like that, was fucking me up because I was a sorcerer, so I was real weak, right? And I wanted to get that tail because I was a sorcerer, and I wanted an intelligence, based greatsword. It was a huge pain in the ass to get that thing. You have to do a lot of damage real quickly.
Yeah.
So.
The best way that I've found to do it is to use Great Combustion, because it has just enough reach and it does enough damage quickly enough.
From in front of him?
From behind.
Yeah, right up to the tip of his tail.
I'm looking at a picture of this greatsword. It's really generic for what you have to go through. Yeah, maybe Moonlight Greatsword.
It's not so much that it looks good. It's that it has really, really good intelligence scaling.
Yeah, what an uninspired design.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the same design as the Moonlight Greatsword in Kingsfield, because this is like it's a legacy weapon. Like, there has been a Moonlight Greatsword in like every game this company's done.
Interesting.
More or less. I don't know if it's every game, but there's a Moonlight Greatsword in a lot of their games.
Right. I'm looking at a video right now, but yeah, it's real useful if you're doing any kind of sorcery build. It is the way to go. It looks exactly like the Moonlight Greatsword from Kingsfield.
I beat me to it.
Yep. That'll make it so that works. Unless you've gone and made yourself like a +5 enchanted whatever you want to use.
Yeah.
Because like when I got this, I was really disappointed because it was not better than my +5 enchanted rapier.
So it's like, do you want to? Oh, okay, so it might be moveset.
Yeah.
But
it's not a bad weapon. It's a good weapon, but it's not. The effort to reward was not quite right there.
It has a unique R2 as well, so
yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that can happen with this fight, so like you want to getting the tail is a wrinkle. with my archer, there are other curse statues because he breathes curse breath. So you want to go into some curse resistance. But he can get stuck behind them. So my archer, I was standing by his immortality crystal. He was standing behind one of his statues, just walking in place, and couldn't get around it. So like I had to destroy his crystal for him, but then I just shot him in the face with arrows until he died. Like, and that was all it took. Like he screwed himself over pretty good.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty easy boss fight if you're doing it. If you have good curse resistance and you're not doing a gimmick of any kind.
Yeah.
Like, get between his tentacles and attack him, and watch out for his big area effect crystal thing.
Yeah, he telegraphs that pretty strongly, though.
Yeah. It's a big don't lock on fight. Because he's so big.
Yeah.
You lock onto the middle of this thing that's like a story higher than you. So you need to be like attacking, getting real close up to him, attacking between the tentacles, and then keeping an eye on him. Like I always did, not between the tentacles, because then that he does his tail smash, but going up to the front, like right in front of his right tentacle, and just kind of hitting him.
So here's just kind of like a bit of a what if kind of gameplay thing. So what if gigantic enemies like this had different areas that you could target? So you were panning between different ones, right? So there were multiple hot spots that you could hit, so it wasn't always dead center in the middle of their hitbox. This implies that they would have a better lock-on and target chain system than they do right now. But like, with the way that they seem to be going in Dark Souls 2, where you're knocking more stuff out of the air and the combat seems to have more situational stuff, that almost seems like a way that they could go. Or would that just shit it up?
It's interesting you say that, because that happens in Demon Souls.
Oh, really?
Yep. There's one gigantic, like the biggest boss you fight, like the one with the biggest sense of scale, has multiple zones you can target.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yep. So, and then it's just one of the many, like Dark Souls 2 already looks like it's returning to a lot of Demon Souls things, and could be another one.
Right.
If that happened, well, I guess you probably wouldn't have too many instances where you have one of those multiple targetings, people alongside other enemies, but I could see that being really frustrating. You'd want the controls to cycle between enemies, different than the controls to cycle between specific points on an enemy.
I would only want it for, like, if you're fighting one guy.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want it to ever be a weak spot.
Right.
Like, that's too video gamey and dumb. Like, when we get to the boss fight where it happens in Demon Souls, like, it's essential there.
Right.
Like it needs to be, and it kind of fulfills a purpose, and it could fulfill a purpose here too. But I never want it to be a weak spot, and I'd never want to, I wouldn't want to deal with two different cycling systems. That seems too complicated to me.
Think about the Iron Golem, where you can, like do damage to the core if you're doing different, like ranged attacks. But if you could attack one leg or the other specifically, like call that out, just kind of like, oh, these are the things that are at my level. So I have this, so I can lock on to do a ranged attack if I want to. But if I want to hit the feet, I don't have to kind of like fight with the camera.
But it's good that you have to, because otherwise that boss fight would be too easy.
Well, yeah.
Like if you could just attack the foot, that's all anyone would do is go up and attack the foot 3 times and instant win.
Yep.
Same thing with like Quelaag. Like if you could target her torso with a bow and arrow, she'd never get a shot off.
Yeah.
The weak spots have to be an Easter egg for being able to free aim and being, badass. Like it can't be something they build into the game.
They would have to design around it, but I'm just, I don't know.
I don't mind fighting with the camera with Iron Golem. Like I feel like that makes sense. Like you just don't lock on to Iron Golem, like I think what happens, what the dissonance comes from, like the fact that in so many situations locking on is a big plus, and the game doesn't necessarily do a great job of teaching you that this should be a situational thing, right? Like you shouldn't be locking on all the time, and the game only teaches you that through like these kind of hidden things, like Quelaag's weak spot and the Iron Golem's instant win and stuff like that. And like I would like it if the game spent more time teaching you, like, this is optional,
right?
Yeah.
So
any more, like, Seath is not. There's not too much to this boss fight.
No, it's pretty well balanced, excepting kind of the wrinkles that we brought up before. But yeah, I like his design, like visually, it's real creepy. He's albino. He has no eyes, or his eyes are so small that they are not immediately visible.
Do you think he's albino, or is that just how all dragons look under their scales?
like he's referred to as albino in some of the text.
Okay.
So, and then also he's got these like dragonfly wings, multiples of them.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. And then additionally, like he's got these like crystal barnacles that are growing on him. So it's kind of like indicating that this corruption is kind of spreading. Yeah.
The attack of his that always really confused me was the one where the crystals grow out of the ground. And just like I would get caught in that, but I would hold my shield up and, that just kind of hang out there until it went away. And it never did that much damage to me. So I wasn't sure what the purpose of that was. Mm-hmm. Like, and I always felt still, because I wasn't sure, like, if I moved around, if that would invite more damage.
If you're a low poise character, it will throw you up into the air.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
okay.
you had high stability.
Yeah, I was rocking the Giant Eagle Great Shield.
Yep. So yeah, if you don't have that, it's a big pain in the ass.
Gotcha.
Like, the only times I've ever died to Seath, I fought it, beat him the first time. The only time I have ever died to him was when I was fighting him with my sorcerer character or my like no poise dex character. And my soul level 1 character died to him once. Like only things where I'm like crippling myself. If I went in with good defense, then I would be okay with him.
Right.
Have the same experience you had.
Oh, I went in hardcore tank and I died a lot. So thanks for for that. So, makes me feel great.
Epeen. So yeah, and then you beat Seath, and with no, there's one last thing to do here. But that's pretty much it for him. Like, we don't have that much to say about him because there's just not that much to him. You get a bonfire, but you would be remiss if you thought this was the end of your time here, because when you were in the library, you probably picked up a certain key.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The one thing I'll say about Seath is, like, and I think it's the way with most of these characters, like, he's much more interesting as this, like, shadowy force that's, like, the mover and shaker in the world than he is when you get to him in person.
Yeah, like he's got an appropriate sense of scale. Like he's powerful and big.
Yeah.
But I find that most of the kind of second half, not most, I guess, but I felt the same way about Nito. Like Nito was way cooler in concept than he was as a boss fight.
Yeah, I guess I'm glad I got to fight him. I don't think I would have minded if he remained this shadowy figure throughout the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the real boss of this area is Logan.
Bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum.
Yep. So Logan,
I've never fought him, so I'm just gonna let you guys do your thing. Like I said, my playthrough, he never got out of Sen's Fortress. Poor guy.
Logan.
Ultimately, maybe better for him.
Oh, totally better for him. Like your Logan is much better off than our Logans.
Yeah.
Our big hat's Logan.
Thank you. Our attorney's Logan.
Yeah. Whopper's Logan. You go back, he goes crazy if you bought all his sorceries and you kill Seath. Mm-hmm. And he's just gone to that path where like there's nothing more for him to learn. Mm-hmm. And he can't do anything for you. He goes hollow. And he strips off all his clothes.
Except for the hat.
Yep, and there's a reason. The developers did an interview that tells the reason why that is they originally took off all those clothes, and the reason he did it is to become more like Seath the Scaleless.
Right. Logan the Clothesless.
Yeah, exactly. The same way I turn to Gary the Clothesless once or twice a day. I get closer to Seath. And then, but they wanted to make sure he was recognizable, so they gave him the hat.
Oh,
so you fight a naked man wearing his gigantic hat in Seath's old room.
That's got to be a theme invasion.
I'm sure it has been. Like,
yeah.
I'm sure people have done it, and I'm sure it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but he comes at you with kind of this one last spell that he has developed, which is him mimicking Seath's white dragon breath. Mm-hmm. So he attacks you with this cone area effect of crystals popping out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And good for him. Like, he learned how to do it. Yeah. And you can get this spell when you beat him, but it's such a slow wind up. Like, it's really powerful, but it has the highest intelligence requirement.
It's like 50.
It's like 50, which is like that's past the soft limit, and has a huge wind up. Yeah. So I never ended up using it, but the reason why I did want to kill him was to get the 10 crystallization catalyst.
Love that thing.
Yeah, which is just. Man, our sorcerer's awesome glass cannons in this game. Not to TV tropes it out too much, but like putting on all the stuff that boosts your sorcery and just like, two-shotting bosses with Crystal Soul Spear is so fun.
Is it so? If you like kill him earlier in the game, can you pick that up from him?
He just has his regular catalyst.
Oh,
and I actually don't think he drops it. I think that ends up in the treasure chest with his equipment.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can't get any of his catalyst, and his catalyst is a decent catalyst.
Yeah.
If you go, see, now I'm trying to remember. If you go there without fighting him, and open what's in that chest,
it's the large magic ember.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can't get that if he's not
can.
there?
Yeah.
The large magic ember.
Gotcha.
Yep. The large magic ember spawns when Seath dies.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's if you want to make a magic weapon plus 10. If you're doing that, just make yourself an enchanted weapon.
Yep.
Which it's funny when I did this playthrough, I just completely. I think I talked to Logan and Sens and then like just never went and let him out and kind of forgot that I'd ever met him before. Mm-hmm. But I had like read rumblings about, you fight this big hat Logan guy, which I'd read about and seen in the loading screens and everything in Duke's archive. So I got really excited and I went up there and it's kind of like, hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
I'm here for the fight. Is there a Logan? No?
Nope, just books that you can't read.
Maybe that was on Monday night.
Books where the pages are all stuck shut because some pasty nerd was researching all over them. So,
oh, they're all crystallized shut.
Yeah.
So something that I feel is like worth saying about Logan before we wrap up on him. He's essentially Merlin for this world. Like, he's not living backwards in time, but like everybody knows about him by reputation. I forget who it was, but when they're talking about how weird time is there, I think it's probably the crestfallen warrior just saying, great heroes from all of time are popping in and out. And one time I even saw Big Hat Logan. Imagine that.
Yeah, he's a legendary figure. And up until this point, up until he goes crazy, it's kind of flattering to you as a sorcerer because he speaks to you as an equal throughout it. Like, he's like, I'm going to help you out. You're clearly very intelligent. Mm-hmm. Between the two of us, we can take this on. And that ultimately is what ends up, leading to Griggs going hollow. Mm-hmm. Griggs is a little sycophant. And when Logan goes here, he tells you, but he doesn't tell Griggs.
Right.
And then Griggs just goes searching and ends up dying.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like Logan treats you as an equal, which is really cool, up until he goes mad. And kind of serves as like what should be an example. Like if your character had a narrative arc and you've been following the sorcery path, running into Logan should teach you not to follow the sorcery path. Like, you know what? I don't need these spells. Like, this is not worth it. Mm-hmm. Like this is how people go crazy and get naked.
Yeah.
Spring break.
Yeah. It's
come to the Duke's archives in Panama Beach.
Yeah.
But if you don't have high enough intelligence, he's real condescending. It's kind of like, this life isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
Really?
What's that's when you kill him with a giant sword.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, it's not.
Oh man, maybe college isn't for you.
Yeah.
Maybe living isn't for you.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're coming to get us.
Yeah. Yeah, Portland. Oh, it's an ambulance. It's not. Hopefully, they're not coming to get us. He's well respected and goes crazy, and that's Logan, and that's sorcery, and that's more or less this episode.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't have much else to say.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Dennis?
No, this was a really fun area. Just aesthetically, I liked it a lot, and lore-wise, I liked it a lot. And like I said, this was my point of giving up. So
you always have a place in your heart.
Yes, yeah. This is where Dark Souls me.
The real Dark Souls starts here.
Yeah.
So what are we doing next time, Cole?
Well, next time we will be venturing into the Demon Ruins and Lost Izalith to end the suffering of the Witch of Izalith and her Daughters of Chaos. Yeah, and we're going to be joined by Vivienne, noted commenter, somebody who just really, really has great insight into this stuff, and we're really, really excited to have her on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. As we said at the beginning, this episode is brought to you by Audible.com. And for you, our dear listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you an opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat. Again, that's audibletrial.com/bonfiresidechat for your free audiobook. May or may not contain crystallization secrets. Yes, so that's that area. If you have any corrections for us, which I'm sure you do, please get in touch with us. Or if you want to comment about the next area, please give us a comment at Duckfeed.tv/contact and get in touch.
Yeah, we're a lot of engagement on the on corrections and responses here. As you'll hear next week, we got a shitload. So we really appreciate that. That's we dedicate whole episodes to it, so we love it.
Yep, and the place where all that stuff lives is our Facebook page.
Yes.
So if you want to join the conversation in real time, like my depository for YouTubes of Dark Souls that I find is the Facebook group. And other people's as well. So it's a pretty good Dark Souls content aggregator at this point, I feel like. So join that. If you would, rating and reviewing us on iTunes is always a big help. And doing any of those support links, the Amazon thing is a big deal.
Right. There's one thing that is that we would like to say. We don't want to hit you over the head with it on too many shows for too long, but we are kickstarting a Watch Out for Fireballs live show. It may or may not be funded by the time you hear this. We're real close. However, we do have stretch goals, and we're putting up some new stuff, here. So go check that out and see if there's anything that tantalizes you.
Yep, they're awesome stretch goals.
Yeah,
and people who, if you like. I can imagine there are probably people who just listen to Bonfireside Chat who don't listen to Watch Out for Fireballs.
Shame on you.
Thank you. If there are games, though, that we do for that, you'll like the same approach because we take similar approaches. There are different games where we kind of do the same thing. So I think you'd like it. Give it a shot if you haven't.
Yeah.
Or if you and you can support the Kickstarter even if you just feel like supporting us as dudes.
Yeah.
There's not a Bonfireside Chat live show. So there's nothing to kickstart specifically for it, but
SoulsCon 2015.
Yeah, if there was a Dark Souls convention, we would be so over that. Yeah. Into that. Not over it, into that.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's too mainstream now.
No. We are not too mainstream for that. Somebody do a Dark Souls convention and someone invite us to go do a panel at it or do a podcast. We'd love to do it. But, if you just feel like supporting us as guys, it's a big help.
Yeah.
And you get a bunch of cool stuff.
Yep.
So,
Neat. So I feel like that's about it for the admin stuff.
Do you have anything to plug, Dennis?
Yeah, I was going to say, another podcast on the network. If you liked my comments, if I didn't sound like a complete jackass, you can go over to The Level, and it's kind of it's more current video games. I've been describing it to people as we kind of talk about games as this medium going through its artistic adolescence almost.
Yeah,
and really just shoot the shit a lot and have some fun talking about games. But we recently had a bonus level, if you want a good starting place, where we interviewed the lead level designer of Spec Ops: The Line, which is really cool, and hopefully we'll get to do more stuff like that in the future. And I think we also have an episode up specifically dedicated to Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
So generally we're more kind of just whatever we've been playing that week, talking about a bunch of stuff. But we've been doing more and more stuff that's dedicated to one game. Which if you're liking Bonfireside Chat, then that's probably for you. So go check it out.
A lot of it's the same ethic, Yeah.
And
yes.
and that specific one, that bonus level, is a lot of the same personnel. It's me, Kole, and Dennis on that, and then also Ben and David.
Right.
So and that was a lot of fun to do, and I think that came out great.
Yeah.
I would recommend that to anybody who's played Spec Ops: The Line, and I would recommend Spec Ops: The Line to just about anybody. So.
Yes.
Yeah, the same way I would recommend Dark Souls.
He goes as far as to recommend it at the very end of the podcast after we split the shit out of it. So.
Yeah.
That was funny. So thank you very much for listening to this. Thank you very much for hopping on here, Dennis.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And until next week, praise the sun.
Praise the sun.
Praise the sun.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon